There are some conversations that are easier to have than others. One of those is when you talk to mom and dad about their money. And let's face it, most of the time, these conversations never happen, or they happen too late. Today on Consider This program, we're going to break down for you a structure in terms of how to ask these questions as soon as possible, how to get their philosophy on income and savings and debt and budgets and giving, especially giving. We're going to talk about long-term care concerns over health and what assets should be sold. We want clarity, ladies and gentlemen, for you to have with your parents so that you can make decisions without guilt, without worry, without concern of overstepping your boundary. Join us on Consider This program today, and we will talk about family harmony and how to talk to your parents about money. Well, good morning and welcome to Consider This program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Dean Hudleston.
And we are happy to have you along. Hey, when you look at the screen here of a big part of the Financial Enhancement Group, I will show you Dean is over here in the corner, just so you know who we're dealing with. Dean has been with the firm for how many years now?
7.
7 years. It seems like yesterday in some cases. Other days, I can't imagine you not being here, being part of the team. We've got 4 primary central office locations. Lafayette is where Dean is located. Anderson's the headquarters. Fishers, Indianapolis, just on the northeast side of Indianapolis. And then Brownsburg is the other one. Always looking for new people who are willing to be a part of the Financial Enhancement Group, either families for us to take care of or those of you that are interested in a career. I did spend 7 years at Purdue University teaching the Capstone Financial Planning Program. A lot of what you get on the show comes from that, where we do our best to teach people how to understand their money. But I also like training young planners. I'm happy to say of the 29 people that are on the FEG team, 5 of them were students of mine. So nothing like being able to handpick the best of the best. All right, that worked out very, very well. Dean, we're going to start with how to talk to your parents about money and about their wishes. We break it down into 3 categories: the philosophy, lifetime care concerns, right? And then eventually distribution upon demise. So let's talk about philosophy. Dean, what would you say are the 3 big areas that we need to address in the philosophy of a dad and talking to his son about money?
Well, it's got to be about what his desires are coming forward. Does dad have things in place like a will or trust that we know about, he's designated, and we're all in the understanding of what dad wants to happen with his money. You also have to understand, what does dad want to do when he can't live independently anymore? How does that look? What does that look like? And then simply, does he have that legacy plan he's put in place? How are you going to help with that? How are you going to take charge of that if that's what he desires?
So when we look at philosophy, let's break it down. The first one is investing and saving. At the years you've been in this industry, would you agree with me that people have different philosophies, sometimes even in the same household, about how money's invested and how money is saved or spent?
I speak to those people every day of the week.
In your own house?
In my own house.
So Pam would have a different viewpoint.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so would Barb. Right. So it's, I've been fortunate to be married for 33 years and very, very blessed. And you've been how many years?
39 in April.
I knew you were ahead of me, but I didn't know it was quite that far ahead. That's 6 years is a big deal in marriage. Congratulations. That's a wonderful time. So how you invest money is critical. And I will tell you, understanding your parents' philosophy in terms of how they manage money is critical. And I will tell you one of the worst stories, right? I can always tell you the best, or I can tell you the worst. We had a person who worked for a large chemical company that you can figure out that was on a corporate airplane flying it, and the plane went down. Happens. You fly a lot. It went down. And all of a sudden, the spouse, as the beneficiary, received several millions of dollars for the beneficiary because he was killed in an accident, killed at work, right? Plus his other life insurance. And the one thing that he had told her up to that period of time is never fail to invest in this company's stock, right? That was the conversation over investing. Yeah, wow. Never, all of his 401k that he could have, everything else was all invested in that one company stock. Now, he didn't bother to explain why he liked that company stock. He didn't bother to explain to, this is when I would change my mind or change my opinion or change anything else. And so all of her money went into that one company stock, which we watched got cut in half very, very quickly during a bad part of time. and it wound up being a very, very detrimental financial situation. I believe if you are the one who controls the money in the household, that you need to have a written guideline that says, this is why we own X investment. This is why I bought this. This is what I expect for it to do, and here's what I would make a change. And Dean, I will suggest to you that there's two reasons, one hidden. There's two reasons why you want to write that out. Right? The first one is so that your surviving spouse or your kids who are there to clean up the mess can change it. Right? Remember, the probability of Joe just dropping dead is less than the probability of Joe fading away.
Correct.
Meaning somebody else has to step in and make the decisions, or should be stepping in to make the decisions that I used to make. Right?
Right.
And what we see happen are people who don't want to do something that they don't think that I would have signed off on. Right? Even though they have the responsibility of taking care of my nest egg, right, as the successor trustee, even though they have the responsibility, they don't want to take the control, right? And there are a lot of reasons we can go into that. We need to fix that, right? And so when I handwrite, right, in my case, I computer type, that way people can actually read it. It's legible and spell checked, right?
Yes.
And, when I go in and I say, this is why I put this amount of money here, this is what I expected to have happen, right? So I go through, no different than Adam does as our chief investment officer on the allocation team. He writes out a memorandum that says, this is why we bought it. This is why we bought it now. This is what we're looking for it to do. I do the same thing with every investment that I have. This is the plan, right? Now, I do it for two reasons. One's obvious. I want Barb, my trustees, my successor trustees, and the kids to be able to read that to say, okay, this is what Dad's intentions were. This was his philosophy. There is a second person that I want to be able to read that. Guess who that would be?
IRS?
Me.
You?
Me. Because we tend to fade away. And I have to recognize, since I've done this for 32 years, I have to recognize the unwillingness of people to step in and take away my checkbook, to take away my right to be able to make decisions. Lord knows it probably wouldn't be a peaceful transition, right? So if I don't design this ahead of time, if I'm not very communicating about what my wishes and wills are and how to measure that, you know, and my team knows that I play a brain game every Monday morning on my iPad and report the scores so that I know when something is beginning to deteriorate, so that there's something that's going to skew, right? And, I give myself a little leniency, but not much. And that number is reported, and it's reported for a good reason. But I want to be able to remind myself why in the world I bought this company. It does a couple things for me. One, if I start to lose track of why I did something, it reminds me of my original thought. Genesis does matter, the original idea. But the second part of that, Dean, is it makes me remember in bad times why I really bought it. Right? Am I selling this today because the market happened to be down, or what was the real reason? So there's a lot of reasons to do that. I would say on philosophy that you need to do that with why you invested in individual things, your theory on saving. You need to do it with how you want to treat debt, whether or not you have a budget. Right? My kids know that we didn't have a budget because the last time I had one, I had more month than I had money. Right? Now they know that we live on a percentage of our income, but not with necessarily a budget. Retirement's different. I still stand firmly that you need to have a retirement budget, but also giving. I mean, have you had that conversation with your kids about how you feel about giving so that they understand what's expected of them on your behalf when you're still here and not able to do it yourself?
I think you do that by example. They see what we do now. When we're giving to whatever charity we're contributing to, whether it's church or a shelter or something like that, we give them that example and we talk to them about it.
So here's why I say you need to do more, right? Remember, people give out of income, not out of assets. Today, you're gainfully employed. 15 years from now, and you're retired, right? Now, yes, 15.
15.
What, yeah, yes, 15. Now that you're retired and the income has gone down, but the assets have built. Right? Now you need to explain to them what your strategy is, because a lot of times we watch families who were making large charitable contributions and all of a sudden somebody else takes over, usually somebody, by the way, who's going to inherit the money, right? And suddenly the charitable gifting seems to go down a little bit. You can put your own thing with that. But
Absolutely.
This is why I believe the successor trustees for all intents and purposes, should be somebody different than somebody who's going to get the receipt of the money. You want somebody who is making decisions as you would want them made on your behalf without having the conflict of interest of it being on their behalf.
And the letters you write to your trust contain that information as well as time goes on.
It does. And some of those I make, some of them I have made more open as opposed to sealed in envelopes upon my demise or my inability to take care of myself, right?
Gotcha.
They're conversations that I think need to take place. And this is how I would have the conversation with mom and dad. If you're 35 to 50 and your mom and dad are still competent and coherent, I would come up with this list of questions. In fact, if you remind me, Dean, I will even put together a checklist of questions that I think are worthy of being asked. We have a whole slew of checklists that you can get at yourlifeafterwork.com. If there's something that you want to know about, that we don't have a checklist for, ask the question. We'll turn it into a radio conversation and something that we can build upon. But philosophy, lifetime care concerns in terms of assets, there are, we've got people in our family that have farm ground that they didn't want sold as long as they were alive. And so the question was, hey, are you going to come back and haunt me? Right. If I sell this,
right.
And but make sure that they're very, very clear. Nope, you can sell it, or no, I would really like to see it passed on for generations. Just understand what it is. The homestead, a lake place, what people really, really, really want. Remove all of the friction and drama that you can possibly remove out of stuff while you're still alive, where people feel somewhat compelled to listen to you, even when they probably shouldn't be. 800-928-4001. Don't forget to go to yourlifeafterwork.com. 800-928-4001.